Anxiety is often seen as the enemy, a heavy weight on the chest that steals peace and drains energy. But what if the truth is that anxiety itself holds power, a kind of raw energy that can either be misused or channeled? When you feel anxious about the future, it means your body and mind are switched on, alert, and ready to respond. That racing heartbeat, that restlessness, those swirling thoughts, those are signals of life, signals that you care about what happens next. The problem comes not from anxiety itself, but from letting it remain unshaped, unfocused, and unmanaged. Imagine fire. In the wild, uncontrolled, it can destroy everything in its path. But when directed, when put into a furnace or a torch, that same fire creates heat, power, and light. Anxiety is the same. Left unchecked, it burns you down. Redirected, it pushes you to rise. Think back to times in your life when fear of the unknown forced you to act. Maybe it was the worry about failing a test that made you study harder. Maybe it was the fear of losing a job that drove you to sharpen your skills. Maybe it was concern for your health that made you finally change your habits. In each case, what began as anxiety transformed into fuel for progress. This is the shift that changes everything. Instead of seeing anxiety as an obstacle, you see it as an ally disguised in uncomfortable clothing. When you tell yourself that anxiety is energy, your perspective changes. Suddenly, the sleepless night isn't wasted. It becomes an opportunity to write down goals or plan the next step. The nervous energy in your body doesn't have to spiral. It can be moved through walking, stretching, or creating. Older adults often feel this anxiety even more strongly because the future carries bigger questions: health, independence, finances, legacy. These worries can feel overwhelming, but they are also signals pointing to where your energy should go. If you feel anxious about your health, it's because you value life and strength, and that energy can fuel better eating, more movement, and regular checkups. If you worry about finances, that restlessness can push you to budget more wisely, cut unnecessary spending, or even explore new ways to create income. Anxiety only becomes destructive when it convinces you to sit still. The moment you turn it into action, even small action, it begins to serve you instead of control you. The key is to remind yourself that the body doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. The physical symptoms are nearly identical. That pounding heart, those quickened breaths, that alertness, all of it could just as easily belong to anticipation and drive as it does to worry. The story you attach to those sensations is what determines the outcome. So when the tension rises, instead of saying, "I am afraid," tell yourself, "I am ready." That single shift in language reclaims power. Anxiety becomes the starting point of strength, the hidden fuel behind courage, and the reason you move toward a better tomorrow. A strong body is the foundation for a strong mind. And when you build resilience physically, fear has fewer places to grow. Anxiety thrives in exhaustion, poor nutrition, and stagnation. But when your body is nourished and active, it becomes much harder for fear to take over. Think about how you feel on days when you are drained, when you've eaten poorly or barely moved. The smallest worry seems larger, the future feels heavier, and the mind spins more easily. Now compare that to how you feel after a good walk in fresh air, after a balanced meal, or after a restful night of sleep. The same problems might still exist, but your ability to face them is transformed. Strength is not about erasing challenges, but about creating a body that supports your mind in rising above them. Food is one of the most overlooked tools for managing anxiety. Every bite you take can either fuel calm or feed stress. Highly processed foods, excess sugar, and heavy fried meals can cause spikes and crashes in energy that mimic anxiety, leaving the heart racing and the mood unstable. But when you turn to whole grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and lean proteins, you stabilize not just your body, but your thoughts. Foods rich in omega-3s, like salmon or walnuts, and magnesium-rich foods like spinach or almonds have been linked to lower anxiety levels. Even something as simple as staying hydrated has the power to ease mental tension, because dehydration can cause symptoms that feel like panic. Eating well is not a diet. It is self-defense against fear, a quiet weapon that keeps you steady when uncertainty looms. Exercise works in the same way. Movement is medicine, and for older adults, light daily activity is not just beneficial, it is essential. Walking, gentle stretching, yoga, or Tai Chi help release the physical tension that anxiety locks into muscles and joints. The body was not designed for stillness, and when it remains inactive, stress accumulates like rust on metal. But every step you take signals to your brain that you are alive, that you are moving forward, that you are not stuck. Exercise also triggers endorphins, the natural chemicals that lift mood and fight stress. It doesn't need to be intense to be effective. A 20-minute walk at sunrise, breathing in deeply, watching the world wake up, can shift an anxious morning into a hopeful day. Even practicing deep breathing while you stretch can rewire your nervous system, pulling you out of fight or flight mode and grounding you in calm. The connection between body and mind is undeniable. When your body feels strong, your mind believes you can handle what is coming. Resilience isn't about never feeling anxious, it's about having the strength to respond when anxiety shows up. A well-fed body and a lightly exercised body send powerful messages to the brain. You are safe, you are capable, and you are ready. This is how you weaken fear, by building daily habits that leave no room for it to control you. Anxiety often grows in environments that feel scattered and unpredictable, and this is why stable routines and mindful habits can be such powerful allies. The mind craves order, and when you provide it with rhythms and rituals, you reduce the space where worry can spiral. Think about how you feel on days that start in chaos, when you rush from task to task, skipping meals, losing track of time, and exposing yourself to constant noise and negativity. On those days, even small concerns feel overwhelming because your brain has no anchor. Contrast that with a morning that begins with calm intention, where you rise, stretch, breathe deeply, and give yourself a few quiet moments before the world enters. The external circumstances may not have changed, but the way you experience them is entirely different. A calm routine builds a calm mind, and a calm mind is far less vulnerable to fear of the future. Lifestyle habits do not have to be complicated to be effective. Simple daily practices create a sense of stability that acts like armor against uncertainty. A morning ritual of drinking a glass of water, stepping outside for sunlight, and writing down one or two intentions for the day may sound small, but it sends a strong message to your nervous system. The day has structure, and you are in control. Journaling a few lines at night, reflecting on what went well, and listing moments of gratitude trains your mind to look for order and meaning, instead of focusing solely on what is wrong. Over time, these small actions reprogram your perspective, creating an environment where anxiety struggles to survive. Another critical part of lifestyle stability is managing stimulation. Constant exposure to news, endless scrolling through social media, and late-night screens create chaos inside the brain. They keep the nervous system on high alert, feeding fear instead of quieting it. Creating boundaries around technology, such as a cutoff point in the evening or screen-free hours in the morning, allows your brain to reset, replacing that stimulation with reading something inspiring. Listening to calming music or practicing deep breathing allows you to reclaim control over your inner state. When you protect your peace intentionally, anxiety loses its sharpness. Older adults in particular can benefit from these habits because routines bring comfort and predictability when the larger future feels uncertain. Having a set time for meals, light exercise, relaxation, and sleep provides structure that reinforces a sense of safety. These rhythms tell the body and mind that despite the unknowns, there is still order in daily life. Anxiety may try to convince you that everything is unstable, but your habits become living proof that stability is within your control. What makes these practices powerful is not their complexity, but their consistency. Even the smallest ritual, repeated day after day, becomes a stabilizing force. When life feels unpredictable, these anchors remind you that you have choices, that you have routines that support you, and that you can create calm in the middle of uncertainty. By shaping your environment through mindful habits, you train your mind to trust, to breathe, and to find peace, no matter what tomorrow may bring. Anxiety is a master at finding cracks in the day. It seeps in when routines are weak, when habits are scattered, when life feels unpredictable. The mind, much like a child, longs for structure, and when it doesn't have it, it begins to wander into places of fear and doubt. Creating stable routines is not about being rigid, it is about building a safe framework that allows the mind to relax. Imagine waking up to disorder, rushing through the morning without eating properly, reacting to everything instead of moving with intention. In that kind of chaos, even the smallest problem feels enormous. Now imagine the opposite. You begin the day with calm, with a glass of water, with a stretch, with 3 deep breaths that ground you. The tasks of the day may still be there, but your inner state is no longer hijacked. That is the quiet power of routines. They anchor you when the world feels uncertain. Lifestyle habits become a shield against anxiety because they remind the mind of stability. A morning ritual can be as simple as stepping outside to feel sunlight on your face, or sitting quietly for 2 minutes before you allow the noise of the world to enter. These moments tell your nervous system that life has order, that there is a rhythm you can trust. Journaling can do the same. Writing down one thing you are grateful for, or one small intention for the day, pulls the mind out of fear about the future and back into the present. At night, ending the day with a routine of lowering the lights, limiting screens, and reflecting on what went well gives your brain permission to rest. When these small rituals become consistent, they train your body and mind to expect calm instead of chaos. Another part of creating stability lies in how you manage what enters your life. Anxiety grows louder when you are bombarded by constant news, social media, and notifications. Too much stimulation keeps the nervous system in fight or flight mode, making you restless and uneasy. Choosing to set boundaries with technology is not about cutting off from the world. It is about protecting your inner space. Replacing late-night scrolling with a book, with music, or with gentle stretches changes the chemistry of your brain. It teaches you that peace is a choice you can make daily. For older adults, the benefits of these habits are even more profound. With age comes a greater awareness of uncertainty, about health, about finances, about time itself. That uncertainty can feel heavy, but predictable routines act as a steady ground beneath your feet. Eating meals at regular times, walking at a set hour, having a consistent bedtime, all these choices reinforce the feeling that life is still within your influence. Anxiety may tell you that the future is unstable, but your habits prove to you every day that you still hold control over how you live right now. What makes these routines powerful is their simplicity. They don't require expensive programs or elaborate planning. They require only consistency, the willingness to repeat small acts of order until they become part of who you are. And when you do, you give anxiety fewer places to hide. You remind yourself that even in uncertain times, stability can be created, calm can be chosen, and your habits can become the quiet strength that steadies your journey. Anxiety is always pointing towards something. It may seem like random worry, but if you look closely, it is a compass directing your attention to what matters most. When the mind is restless about health, it is not just trying to scare you. It is telling you that your body needs care, that your habits matter, and that you still have time to take action. When you feel anxiety over finances, that worry is not meaningless. It is a reminder that money management, saving, or finding new opportunities could strengthen your sense of security. If loneliness or uncertainty in relationships stirs unease, the anxiety is highlighting the importance of connection, reminding you that bonds and belonging are essential for peace of mind. Instead of treating worry as a signal to freeze, you can begin to see it as a signpost showing where action is needed. Think of anxiety like the warning lights on a car dashboard. If you ignore them, the problems grow worse. But if you use them as information, you can prevent breakdowns, fix issues early, and keep moving forward. Anxiety is the same. It flashes inside you not to paralyze you, but to push you toward the right steps. The key is to translate that nervous energy into action. If health worries keep you up at night, let that be the reason you make a doctor's appointment. Begin walking daily or change the way you eat. If financial stress keeps circling in your head, let it be the motivation to sit down with a notebook, write out your expenses, and find places to adjust. If fear of isolation weighs on your heart, let that push you to pick up the phone, reach out to a loved one, or join a group where connection is possible. Every time you turn worry into action, you take back control. Older adults can especially benefit from this shift because the future often feels narrower and fears may seem louder. But every anxious thought is still energy. It is fuel that can either spiral inward or push you outward. The same thought that might trap you in bed can, if reframed, get you moving, deciding, and building. What matters is the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, "I am worried about my health," say, "This worry is my body asking me to take care of it." Instead of saying, "I am anxious about money," say, "This energy is my chance to manage and protect what I have." Language turns fear into fuel, and fuel moves you forward. What begins as anxiety can become discipline, resilience, and even purpose when you listen to its message and act upon it. Fear without action keeps you stuck, but fear with action becomes momentum. The future may always hold uncertainty, but when you use worry as a compass, you stop seeing it as an enemy. It becomes a guide, a motivator, and a constant reminder that you still have the power to shape what comes next. The future often feels like an overwhelming storm, because we imagine it all at once. We see the years ahead filled with uncertainty, challenges, and questions we cannot yet answer. That vast unknown can feed anxiety and make us feel powerless. But the truth is that the future is never built in a single moment or with one grand leap. It is built in small daily choices, and those choices are within your control. Every meal you choose, every step you take, every thought you nurture is a brick in the foundation of tomorrow. When you understand that your power lies in these daily actions, fear begins to lose its grip. Anxiety thrives on the illusion that you have no influence, but every consistent habit proves otherwise. Imagine someone planting a garden. They cannot force the plants to grow overnight, nor can they control every detail of the weather. But they can water the soil, tend to the roots, and place the seeds in the best possible conditions. Over time, those small, faithful actions create a thriving garden. Life works in exactly the same way. You do not need to solve the next decade right now. You only need to tend to today's seeds. Cook a nourishing meal that strengthens your body. Take a short walk that moves your muscles and clears your mind. Write down a single thought of gratitude to remind yourself that not everything is uncertain. These are not trivial acts. They are investments in your future self. Momentum is born from consistency, and consistency is born from choosing one small action and repeating it. When you drink water instead of reaching for another sugary snack, you teach your body balance. When you go for a walk instead of sitting in worry, you show your mind that movement is possible. When you breathe deeply in the middle of stress instead of giving in to panic, you prove that calm can be created. These small victories build on each other, and suddenly the future no longer looks like a storm, but like a path you are steadily walking. For older adults, this perspective is especially powerful. There is often a temptation to believe it is too late to make changes, that the future is already fixed. But the body and mind are incredibly adaptable, no matter the age. Even light adjustments in daily choices, healthier food, gentle exercise, mindful routines, bring noticeable benefits. Each choice adds to your resilience, and resilience is what gives you confidence to face the unknown. When you string together weeks and months of consistent effort, the future no longer feels like something to fear. It feels like something you are actively shaping. Fear tells you the future is out of reach, but discipline shows you it is built step by step. Every time you choose growth over stagnation, you create momentum. Momentum makes fear weaker, because it is hard to doubt yourself when you can see and feel progress. The future becomes less about what might happen to you and more about what you are building. In the end, strength is not about predicting tomorrow, but about mastering today, because today is the only place the future can ever begin.